Banking union Sasbo is expected to hold a national strike next Monday, pending their appeal at the Labour Court. That's over possible retrenchments. So what will happen to the banking workforce? Well, my guests are Sasbo General Secretary Joe Kokela, Kaiser Moyane from Business Unity South Africa, and Joni Musabayana from the International Labour Organization. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks very much for your time. Perhaps before we get to the issues, let's just get out of the way the whole numbers things. You have your view as Sasbo as to how many jobs are under threat. Where do you get your numbers and what are they telling you?
Look, thank you very much. The numbers that we've been talking about as Sasbo, those are the numbers in which we are consulted with by the banks. And I can vow that those numbers are factual and there's no fabrication of any number.
Give us the number again.
Look, we were approached by APSA. APSA was talking of 853 people that were going to be affected. And they were approached by Standard Bank that was talking of the branch closure of 91. And it is clear that they've even gone over and above the 91 that they spoke about. As we speak, 1,800 people are out of job as we speak now. Then we were approached by Nedbank that has said to us they're going to affect 3,000 people. And as we speak, 1,500 people in Nedbank, they've received the letters that are saying their jobs have been affected. As we speak, some people, they've served up to August as their last month. They're home as we speak. And later were also approached by Standard Bank to say they were going to affect another 6,000 people. But those people's jobs were guaranteed, of which we did not believe as the union.
Joe Kokela, you're disputing these numbers.
It's Kaiser Moyane. Look, yeah, we certainly are disputing the numbers. Mr. Kokela knows the true figures. And we have repeatedly said to them that the fact that somebody is affected or impacted, meaning their job is changing, does not necessarily mean that they are going to lose their job. This is what this whole process of consultation is about. So if someone's job is changing because of digitization or any other technological changes, it may mean that that person's focus needs to shift, but it doesn't mean that the person is out of a job. And this is essentially what has been happening. So he's told you numbers like 1,500, 6,000, all of that. These may be the roles that have been impacted by the changes, but these are certainly nowhere near the numbers that the banks have had to let go through retrenchments. The numbers, as he knows very well, in the low hundreds, and I'm talking collectively, right? No Standard Bank, I'm talking figures that they have put out in the public. They said out of the branch closures that they've effected, they have had to retrench, forcibly retrench people that they could not accommodate. I think it was 26, the number. Nedbank, I don't have the latest figures as I sit here, but as of, I think, end of July, it was 19 people. But the process of trying to secure alternative positions for all the people that are impacted is ongoing. And they're doing this in consultation with the unions.
Dr. Joni Musabayana from the International Labour Organization. That it is even possible for these two main parties to not have the same understanding, of just the numbers. We haven't gone to the issues yet, which we're going to get to in a second. Says a lot about their relationship, doesn't it?
It says a lot about the importance of dialogue in the workplace. It says a lot about what I could call seemingly the trust deficit that is there between employers in general and the union movement. And that could be a relic of the past. It could be a reflection of what labor relations was in the past. But in the era of digitalization, this kind of difference can spell doom for both parties. And what we as the ILO are saying, we are urging three things. First of all, we have to accept that automation, digitalization, artificial intelligence will impact jobs, particularly at the lower levels. This is a global trend. This is happening everywhere. Machines will replace tasks that are routine and repetitive at the lower end of the spectrum. The response, therefore, must be to upskill and reskill people. The response, therefore, must be to have very confidential dialogue about what is the impact of automation and digitalization, which work areas are affected, how many people, and what collectively can be done to reskill, upskill, and those that have to leave, how can we assist them to leave so that they have a new workplace somewhere else or they enter into small business. So the importance of dialogue and confidential dialogue where parties are very open to each other is reinforced in the exchange we are seeing here today.
Joe Kokela, you do accept that technology affects jobs today and is going to affect even more jobs going into the future. That's the premise you are moving from, isn't it?
Look, as Sasbo, and we've been saying it many times, that we really embrace digitalization. And we are aware of what might be the impact of digitalization. And much as we embrace digitalization, our challenge here with the banks is that there's no bank up to now that has ever came to us as Sasbo with a clear program where they will say to us, we believe that this is what the future world of work entails. And much as this is the future world of work, this is the programs that we believe that we can upskill, we can reskill, we can multi-skill, and we can also outskill the people that we have in the banks. What the banks are doing, they are just acting spontaneously. They are reactive on what they are reacting on is what the union does not understand. So we do embrace that digitalization is here, and maybe to take you further to show that we embrace digitalization. When the issue of digitalization started, when we realized the competitive nature that the banks have, because there's no bank that wants to give their game away. No one has ever came to us and say, these are the skills that will be needed, going to the future. This union had to go out to the countries where we believe that digitalization was rife. We went to the Scandinavians. We went to Denmark. We went to Sweden. As for us to understand what does digitalization mean, we even went as far as Asia, in Singapore. We even went to Germany. So as for us to do our own research as the union, we came back. And when we came back, we called the banks to say, this is the kind of research that we came up with as the union. Can we meet? We even called for digital Indaba. We called everybody. We said, let's meet and have a discussion. We called the gurus of digital in the space. When the gurus were there, we said, let's look together, as the union and the banks and see what is it that we'll get out of this. And out of this, let's sit down together and say to us, this is what we've identified together, because of the banks cannot come openly to us and say, this is the program of the artificial intelligence or of the fourth industrial revolution. So we thought that by doing that, we'll be having Indaba where all of us will come with common a program that we can assist our people.
Okay, Zamaya?
Sure. I think what Joe might have omitted to tell you is that on those road trips that they embarked on, actually there were joint trips, joint studies with the banks to go and, because this talks to the relationship that they have, the banks and the union have. When they acknowledge that they have common problems, they can talk. And they did go out together to go and study what digitization would look like when it finally hits the country. And and I do agree with Joe that perhaps they should have done more collectively, perhaps at a sector level, to try and find some solutions at that level. But that said, it does not mean, and I heard him say that no bank has done anything. about the people who are impacted. That's actually not true. I'm aware of programs that banks have embarked on where they are actively trying to assist the affected employees. In fact, Sasbo would confirm that with the assistance of the bank SETA, one bank in particular that I'm aware of has secured between bank SETA and the bank an amount of about 26 million rands set aside to try and assist through reskilling, upskilling, and even outskilling people who are affected in roles that are being automated or digitized. So the banks have already started this, and I can give him stats, right, which his union actually is in possession of, where numbers have been sent on training or reskilling programs. Some of them not necessarily for jobs in the banking sector, but jobs outside the banking sector. I'm aware of people who have been sent, for example, those who want to be estate agents. They're being given NQF level 4 training through this funding, where the banks are facilitating it. Okay. There are various of them. Some who want to be, I'm sure you all know about YIDI, the Business in a Box initiative. We also have employees who are affected who would like to start their own businesses. They're being equipped to do just that.
Would it not have been better, okay, where, I mean, you took me along with you in response to what he just said, that, for example, the trips were undertaken jointly, but then you didn't get us to a point where you're saying what then happened after those trips, you know? Undertook trips together, but then did they come up with a joint program? What was the response to that Indaba, you know, where a joint program would have been? Because at some point, if Bank A is a good bank and does raises together with the SETA the 26 million, you're saying they raised. Now, if that is not felt across the board, you know, then it's not going to make much of a difference. And remember, unions, solidarity is very important because their strength is in numbers. So it becomes their strategy. Now, there had to have been, this conversation should have been taken to its logical conclusion. In other words, there should have been a follow-through on the back of those trips and a joint program carved together. The fact that you can sit here and argue over numbers says there is something fundamentally wrong somewhere. And I'm not going to say you are to blame or they are to blame, but there is something wrong.
Yeah, okay, so firstly, let me just clear up something. It wasn't an industry and union joint trip. It was the union and the individual banks. I'm not sure if all of them participated in this, but I know of certainly one that participated in this. So the programs that they are rolling out to staff, they're being done in consultation, rather I should say, with the union. Okay. But you know, that aside, I do agree that there's still scope, perhaps at a sector level, to see beyond what companies or banks themselves individually are doing, what else can be done, right? But that is something that can only be achieved through dialogue. Okay. And as far as I've heard from the beginning of the talk about protest action, BUSA and its associations have always said that they are open to talking. So there are discussions at bank level, but if the unions would like to talk even at a collective level, BUSA has always said they are prepared to do just that. Right?
Johnny Musawayana, yes. I don't know. Someone has to exercise leadership here. And we cannot sit here and pretend that these people carry or are in similar positions. right? There are people who do have a responsibility to exercise leadership. And by virtue of the positions they occupy, they are in control of a whole lot of things, including the narrative of what is going on here. And perhaps the best thing that should happen is that those who feel that they are being misinterpreted, and dare I say, they are in charge of better resources than the unions would, should perhaps take the lead. In the same way that business has been arguing that at times, or oftentimes, the president of the country is not exercising leadership. He's got all the instruments. He's been given the popular mandate by the people of this country to take decisions. Why is he not taking decisions? From back where the unions are saying this thing should have started, that the minute people said, hey, there's something lurking, something is bound to happen, and it's going to affect all of us, then someone should have proactively said, this is what we should then do. But even now, after all has been said and done, with all the mistakes that have been made, it's not too late for these people to come together and actually show leadership and do what is right, isn't it?
We agree completely. And let me just say, we had the NEDLAC summit last week, Thursday, and this issue was very much under discussion. If we talk about leadership, then we have to look at the institutions that are designed to give that leadership. And you have to say, NEDLAC is the rightful forum for that.
But is it doing it?
And the
is
conclusion,
NEDLAC doing what it is supposed to do?
Because we had that discussion at NEDLAC summit last week, Thursday, the conclusion from that discussion was this discussion needs to be taken to the sectoral level. It is clear that it's not enough for different individual actors in a particular sector. And this issue, dare I say, is not a banking sector issue. This is going to affect all of the sectors. And unless this dialogue is structured at sectoral level to ensure that employers' organizations, trade unions meet in a structured way to discuss the indaba that he has talked about, systematically throughout all the sectors. I want to thank President Ramaphosa for formulating the Presidential Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission. We hope that this is what they are busy with.
But were acknowledgements made there that the way this thing has been handled is far from ideal? Were such acknowledgements made?
I think the acknowledgement was made that we are not where we should be. We have not responded rapidly enough, and there's been dialogue, but it's not structured and going deep enough at sectoral level and in a coordinated enough manner. I think those concessions were made at the NEDLAC summit. The next steps, I would dare say, then is where do we go to from here? And I think the leaders in the labor market, I'm looking at the Department of Labor, I'm looking at NEDLAC, I'm looking at the Presidential Commission. These are the institutions and structures that should now engage at sectoral level. The banking sector is just showing us what may be the tip of the iceberg. Many other sectors are feeling this pressure, and unless we respond rapidly enough, using the model that we are seeing the difficulties in the banking sector, we may find ourselves in this across all sectors of the economy.
So, Kokela, where to from here?
Look, there's one thing that I cannot respond to. The issue of the bank sitter. I must point out, in fact, I was the architecturer of the monies that we put for reskilling and upskilling. And for us to push it with the bank sitter, it's when we realized the reluctancy from the banks. And I can tell you that that money is not the money that was put this year. I pushed for 349 million last year already and the other year to be put in place so that the banks can be proactive, identify and put people into those sort of skills that have been identified. The banks are only using that now. All the banks are only using it now after they've affected the people. I mean, the banks knew 6 years, 7 years down the line that this thing was coming. So if they should have done their homework and if they should have identified those skills, would have trained, would have skilled those people 6 years, 7 years down the line. It's only now where they are putting people that have already been affected. And the people that Mr. Moyan is talking about is people that are exiting at the bank. It's not people that are going to be transferred into other skills. Those are the people that are on a bye-bye sort of split. It's not the guys that they can say to us are going to be reskilled, are going to be upskilled and whatever, and then they will be dealing with the robotics and all these other things and other things. Those people that are there with those other skills, because of all the banks that are looking at now is just to tick the box and say we've outskilled people. You know, one bank was talking to me about people being trained about hairdressing, people being trained about running a bakery. You know, so you say to yourself, where are we going as the country? Where somebody has spent 30 years of their life working for the bank, this bank now, when it has to give this person a better skill, this person, the bank is saying to us, with the out of the box or in box, whatever that case was talking about, that out of the box thing is taking people out of the bank. So we are saying the bank is shrinking. Yes, we acknowledge that as Sasbo. But all that we're saying is to say, how do we better our people, our members, to be better people as far as digitalization is concerned? That's all that we're asking for as the union and nothing more. So,
sure. Look, it's not everybody who's being given skills so they can exit the bank. In fact, far from it. A lot of the people that are affected, that are being consulted, or that are being equipped with fresh skills, are being given new skills so they can remain relevant in the banks. Remember, it's not as if the banks would like to just simply, after training and grooming the people who have been helping the bank in various roles, that they will simply one day decide we don't need you. Those people possess skills, some levels of skills, and are still useful to the banks. And so the banks will make the relevant assessments whether these people with sort of right interventions can be repurposed. And I know of a particular bank that has impacted about 1,300 people who are in roles that the bank is saying these, when we look at the skills of the future, are likely to be at risk. So we are now going to shift your focus and develop you so that you can acquire those skills which we know that the bank will need in the future. About just over 1,300 people that are being given that. And it's not so that they can exit the bank, it's so they can remain in the bank and be productive. So it's, yes, there are those people who may say, put up their hands and say, there isn't anything else for me in the bank, and I'm happy to go do something else. And it's not, no one is forced. And so they put up their hand and they get given assistance in that regard. Those who would like to remain in the bank, they also put up their hand and get assisted accordingly.
Quick last word, Johnny.
I think we need much greater levels of trust. We need much greater levels of transparency. And then we need much deeper dialogue. The issue of the impact of digitalization is not just about the workers. It's about the impact on society. The risk that financial inclusion strategy, if not handled well, we could increase the income inequality between the haves and the have-nots. If I don't have a smartphone in a digital era, am I therefore out of the reach of the banks? I think there are wider issues that need to be dialogued here. The issue about the employers and the workers is certainly a central issue, but there's a wider societal issue. We need dialogue. I agree with Joe that we need an Indaba. I appeal to Moyane and the employers, let's have this, the sooner the better.
And not through the courts, preferably.
Nor the streets.
So we're going to leave it. Special thanks to Kaiser Moyane, Johnny Musabayana, and Joe Kokela for joining us. No doubt we haven't had the last word on this conversation. But Nightline continues. We dive into betting on a dike with author and CEO Mteto Nyati. Stay with us.